Hey guys, today we're going to be taking a look at the game Wombat Kombat. Now in this game you're going to be running a army of wombats, and there's several different things you're going to be able to do with these wombats. The object of the game is you're going to be trying to score the most amount of poo as possible. So let's take a look at it. Okay everybody, here we go. We'll just go ahead and go over the different components right here. Right here is a big stack of wombat cards, and in this game you're going to be having a lot of different cards you'll be using. You'll have different wombats in the game, and I'll talk about what each of these have. You have food cards, you've got action cards, and you also have predator cards, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. In the very beginning, each player is going to be receiving 10 of these wombat cards. Right over here, these are going to be things that are going to be going out through the game. You have the immediate pile, the continuous pile, and the end game pile. Anytime you draw a card from the immediate pile, you're immediately going to go ahead and resolve the action. So this particular one says the oldest player rolls the 2 dice, adds the results together, gives that much proof from the supply to a player of his or her choice. So once this is done, you're going to go ahead and discard that immediate card. You also have continuous cards over here, and this is going to be going out on through the game. So each player is going to have this ability. This one says after a combat, the winner takes an additional poo from the loser, total 4. And you're going to be changing these cards throughout the game, and I'll talk about how that works. You also have the end game, and when the game ends, you're going to resolve this card. This particular one says if you have a fighter wombat, get an additional 5 poo from their supply. And again, these cards are going to probably be changing throughout the game whenever you roll this action die over here. Right here is what is called the poo. And in the beginning, you're going to be receiving 10 of these, and you're going to be trying to get the most amount of these by the end of the game. Here's just an example of some wombats over here. There's several different cards, but I'll show you what the card typically will have. The number in the upper left corner represents how much poo the card is worth, and also tells you how many cards there are of that particular type. Right over here is the attack power they have and the defensive power they have, and you're going to be using this anytime you are doing combat with other wombats. And some of the wombats are also going to have symbols like this, and these are special abilities. Anytime you lay down a wombat for an army, you're going to go ahead and resolve that special ability, and the special abilities are listed over here. For that particular wombat, this one is going to be receiving poo. And the object of the game is you're going to try to be the player that has the most amount of poo. Over here is food, and you're going to be able to place these on your wombat armies in order to protect them from predators, and the predators are going to be the eagle and the fox. So anytime you lay these down, you're going to end up taking a wombat out from a player's army. But if they have cards like this, these cards are going to be taken out first. Also in the game, you have action cards, and there's several different types. You have one that says taming. This will allow you to turn a predator back on your opponent. Cards like this will add a certain amount of power whenever you are attacking your opponent. This one will stop a combat, and there's several different types of cards like this. So in the game, you've got several different options as to what you can do. The first thing you can do is you can go ahead and lay down a wombat army. And a wombat army is going to consist of 2 or more wombats of the same type. So first thing I could do is I can go ahead and do this. So now I've got a wombat army of 4 wombats. Now this is mainly going to be used for points at the end of the game. So right now this is going to earn me 20 poo at the end of the game for the wombats. Now another thing I can do is I can add food to the army like so, and this is going to help protect my army of wombats. Another thing I can do, if say my opponent happened to have this, I could play a card like this, the Predator. And if my opponent didn't have a way to fend off the Predator, he's going to end up losing, in this case, 2 wombats, and these are going to be going into what is called the burrow. And the burrow would be somewhere over here. Now, the significance of the burrow is that at the end of the game, you're going to lose 1 poo for each of the cards that are over here in the burrow. Whenever your opponent plays one of these, or whenever you happen to play a set of these cards, you're not going to be able to add to this army. And you're also not going to be able to play this number if your opponent happens to have it, unless you happen to have more than he has. So let's just say on another turn, the second player happens to have 5 of these 20s right here. So he could go ahead and play those. And what's going to happen is all of my opponent's cards in this case are going to go ahead and go to the burrow. And finally, the other thing you can do is you can do an attack. To do an attack, you're going to just have to have an army of 3 wombats in your hand, and then you'll place them face down and say, I want to do a combat. Now, you can use any combination of wombats that you would like to. I'm just going to be using the same for this example. Now, if the opponent does not have 3 cards that he can use, he'll have to let you know or show you to prove it, and then you're going to go ahead and take these cards back, and that's going to go ahead and end your turn. However, if he was able to do a combat, let's just say he happened to have 3 cards, he's going to go ahead and lay them down like this. So what each player is going to do is they're going to go ahead and compare their offense and their defense. So right now, I've got 3 offensive points over here. My opponent has got a massive 12 defensive points. So I'm already pretty messed up as it is. But just for the sake of showing you how the game works, each player is going to go ahead and get the offensive die, which is this, the defensive die for that player. And both of them are going to roll, and this is going to add to their total. So this adds to my total, and I have 5 points. And right now, my opponent has 14 points. So at this point, I can go ahead and try to play any action cards that I may have. Say I happen to have a card like this, I can say, okay, I'm going to add 1, I'm going to add another 1, so this is going to go ahead and empower my Wombat. And my opponent can go ahead and do the same thing. In this case, right now, I'm going to be losing. So right now, let's just say this is all I can do. My opponent has won the battle. So what is going to happen is that one of my opponent's Wombats is, in this case, the winner's Wombat is going to go into the pile of the glorious Wombats. Let's just say that pile happens to be over here. Now, for every glorious Wombat that you have, you're going to receive 3 points at the end of the game. The winner is also going to go ahead and place the Wombats from his winning army back into his hand. Now, the winner is also going to do the following to the loser. The first thing he's going to do is he's going to take one of the loser Wombat cards and put them in the loser's burrow. The second thing they're going to do is they're going to take one of the combat cards from the loser and add it to their own hand. The third thing is they're going to return one of the remaining cards to the loser's hand. And the fourth thing is they're going to take 3 poo from the loser. Is also going to go ahead and roll the event die over here, and whatever they roll, you're going to go ahead and turn that card over. In this case, it's going to be the immediate card. So in this case, you're going to go ahead and resolve this card. And so ultimately what you're going to be trying to do is one person is going to be trying to lay down a certain amount of armies, and once that happens, that's going to trigger the game. And it depends on how many players you have. If it's a 3-player game, it's going to be 5 armies. So you're going to go ahead and count up your poo. So first thing, you're going to get 20 points for this. This player's going to get 20 points worth of poo for that, so he'll get it out of the stock. For each glorious Wombat, that's going to be 3 poo. For any Wombats that happen to be in the burrow, that is going to be worth -1 point. So anyway, you'll also go ahead and resolve the end game card over here, and then you'll total up all of your poo, and whoever has the most amount of points at the end of the game is going to win. And that, folks, is Wombat Kombat. So my final thoughts on Wombat Kombat. Well, this is an interesting game, and I have to say I do like this game. This game has several different mechanics in it that I like. If you like set collection, it's got that. If you like doing combat with other players and adding different cards to try to boost your power, you've got that. You've got different power cards that you can play. You've got predators. Then you also have the cards that are immediate, continuous, and also the end games that are going to be changing throughout as well. And so there's ways you can gain poo, there's ways you can lose poo. Then, of course, you have the glorious Wombat. So there's a lot of ways you can score. There's a lot of different things that you can do in this game. Now, ultimately, of course, you're trying to get a certain set of Wombats. And one thing I've discovered is that it's real easy to want to get rid of the lower numbered Wombats, but you're actually going to need those in order to build the sets because your opponents could be having higher Wombats in their set, and the only way you're going to be able to overtake those is to have more of them, but you might not be able to get more of them. So then you have to try to save up on maybe some of the smaller Wombats, which you might want to use in combat. So there's a lot going on in this game. There's a lot of different elements in this game, to me, that they seem to gel pretty well. Now, the version I have is a prototype, so the real version might have like some changed rules or whatever, but this is the game I would check out. I mean, Wombats, I've never really seen Wombats in a game before, and the only word I can think of that rhymes with combat is Wombat, so why not Wombat Kombat? So yeah, so it's got a pretty cool little theme with these Wombats, ninjas type Wombats or whatever, so it's an enjoyable game. But yeah, check this out if you're a fan of set collecting and games that just kind of mix different mechanics together. I think it works well. All right, guys, that's my review of Wombat Kombat. We'll catch you later. Keep on gaming.